Hello, so this is going to be my manager interview assignment for my advanced management class. And today I will be doing a manager interview with my boss, Lena. So,
Hello.
hello, Lena. So, I'm just going to ask you a series of questions about your background and stuff like that. So, what's your background at HEB?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say my background at HEB first started in curbside. So I started back in 2019-ish, towards the end of the year. And I did curbside for a couple months. I would say roughly about 6 or 7 months. In my time in curbside, I really enjoyed it. It allowed me to get familiar with the business because curbside is one of the first departments to be interdepartmental, so where you get to actually experience different departments and communicate with them. So I started off with that, and then I had the amazing opportunity to move to the front end as a service lead. That was really exciting because when I first started, I think it had been maybe like a month or so, and COVID hit. So my front end training was very much accelerated, and it was, in fact, I think the most transformative part of my HEB career at that point, just because I was exposed to a lot more conflict. We were in an atmosphere of COVID, so there was a lot of high stress. There was not only stress from partners and concerns for their safety, but also from customers not being able to get the product on the shelf. I mean, we visibly didn't have any product at one point. So for me, that was really big on learning how to delegate, learning how to be in a lot of chaos and being able to come from that and de-escalate situations very quickly, as well as trusting my partners and other managers and leaders around me to help support me in the business that we needed. From there, I was able to transition to Flex Lead. So for me, the Flex Lead position has been my favorite. I absolutely am in love with the Flex team. The fact that I'm able to not only write schedules, but learn about some of the models that the business uses to make our labor model successful, being able to communicate with department managers. There's a lot of coaching involved in it. I'm getting coached, I'm trying to coach, as well as growing myself and growing the partners on my team. For me, the Flex team has been probably one of the biggest ways that I've been able to grow in total store knowledge, because we're going to each department every 30-40 minutes at one point. So especially at the beginning when we first started, we only had 6 people on our team. We're almost double that size now. And so it's crazy to see how fast we've been able to grow and how quickly we've developed certain processes and changed certain processes to become like where we are now. So, and then I guess here shortly I'll be starting my store leadership rotation to be in the store ops position. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Hey, that's what's up. So that's interesting background. So now moving on to the actual interview. So I'm gonna ask you all 24 questions.
Absolutely.
So the first question would be, in general, what are your responsibilities as a manager/supervisor?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I'm very much a believer that you need to be transparent in your roles. So for me, what that looks like is communicating to department managers what they need in regards to our flow a day. So I'm very much a firm believer that our flow a day needs to be changing often, maybe every 2 or 3 periods, because our business changes. So especially going to the holidays, we're probably going to be thinking about starting a different type of flow a day to better support certain areas of the store, since holidays kind of reflect a little bit of that. So for me, it deals with a lot of communication with different department managers. Weekly I have to make schedules, so that's me getting with the MIC in charge as well, showing me any availability changes, any requests off, looking and communicating to our general manager what type of budget he's looking at based on COVID, call-ins, hiring needs as well. So currently right now I'm allowed to over budget myself in hours in order to help other areas of the business be supported comfortably, since a lot of what Flex is being prepared for what we don't know. So on top of that, I also have to manage training. So making sure all my partners are up to date with any training, OSHA, within department overviews as well. And then trying to create little ways to continue growing my team. So right now I'm doing competency models, so trying to expose some of my partners to the competency models. But I would say those are like the major things. Definitely scheduling, communicating, emailing, a lot of reports, and following up with some of the processes that we do, like MSR and Paul Walk, and making sure that we're executing them at 100%.
Sheesh. A lot of responsibilities right there.
Fun responsibilities.
Fun responsibilities. Heck yeah. And moving on to the next question is, how many people report to you?
Ooh, 13, I guess, I think.
Yeah, I want to say
13 or 14, I guess. 14 if we're not including, 14 if we include Anthony in receiving, which is twice a week. 13 with everyone else.
Yeah. Sheesh. So, next question is, why did you choose to become a manager/supervisor?
That's been my favorite question so far. I would say because I fell in love with the fact that I personally didn't know that I had the capabilities in it myself, and so for me, the fact that somebody invested and saw that in myself before I even did made me passionate about doing that same thing for somebody else. I think there's a lot of great people out there, and there are a lot of great partners around me that could really make a difference for not only me but themselves and the others around them.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. So, excellent. Next question would be, what do you like about being a manager/supervisor?
I think my favorite thing about being a manager and supervisor would be getting to overhear conversations between my partners when they don't realize that I'm around. I get to overhear them talking in a certain way that they didn't before because they've been able to grow into their role. So I think that's my favorite thing is being able to really see a partner from the beginning when they first started to 3 or 6 months later, being able to actually delegate, be confident in their decisions, and maybe even coach up. Sometimes I've been able to overhear. So I think that's my favorite part.
Hey, nice. Now, next question. What do you not like about being a manager/supervisor?
What I don't like is not necessarily just with my team, but I guess in a certain way I don't like certain repetition, having to repeat myself with certain things that I would love to be able to move past so that we can grow and get better in different ways, whether that's within our team or talking to other managers or even within myself. Making the same mistakes. I'm very big on trying to not make the same mistake twice.
Hey, so now, what would you say is your biggest reoccurring problem?
I would say my biggest recurring problem is miscommunication.
Oh yeah.
I think miscommunication can be a little bit frustrating because one person's going to be on a different page than another, and then that's where quickly frustration can build up. And when you're frustrated, that's when you lack trust, and it can spiral into bigger things. So I think miscommunication can be a very big one.
Oh heck yeah, big one. So next question would be, how would you characterize or describe your management style?
That's a good one. I would hope, because I'm not always. Hi, how are you?
Trying to get his attention.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
hey, how's it going?
I would say my management style that I would hope I reflect is fun. To a certain extent, I hope that I can at least bring some comical or some humor to it and some friendly competition. I know sometimes I can be stern and forward about it, but I would hope that I'm still a little bit leaning more to the fun and not chill, but just fun aspect.
Because that's the best aspect.
Exactly.
Next question. How do or your organization promote safety?
Okay, that's a good question actually. So being in Flex, we're in multiple departments, especially in the perishable side of the departments, as well as when we receive trucks. So I think safety is a really big part of our team that we sometimes don't even think about because it's like second nature to us.
Yeah.
But I think being a team that moves from department to department, we really have to speak about safety because when we're going from a perishable department to another one, we need to make sure that we are actually washing our hands.
Yeah.
We're, having the correct shoes on. We're wearing correct pants and shirt. So I think we really show not only our team but the store how you can be able to be mobile and safe
Yeah.
at the same time.
Oh yeah. Next question. What are your challenges in managing your time?
That's a great one.
Mhm.
There's a lot of challenges with that, not only because I'm a manager here at work, but I am also in school. So for me, one thing that I'm at a disadvantage in my role is I'm technically not salary, so I'm hourly based manager, which means that I have to try to do all my work here while I'm at work. Versus there's certain managers that can do work at home and they can get ahead in certain ways. So I think for me, what's been the hardest part is being the manager that not only does, we can close the door too if it's too loud. Being the manager that not only physically tries to do the work, so receive trucks, stock market, shop curbside or whatever, but also run the reports, do the schedule, follow up with store leaders, get connected with other managers. So for me, that's the hardest part is I'm the only manager that has to actually physically do the stuff and also do the back end stuff.
Oh yeah.
I don't really have a good example, to lean on. Like I can't go to Michael and be like, hey, how do I learn how to do this? Because he doesn't have to struggle with that. So
Yeah.
it's definitely an interesting. It's something I'm learning through. I'm trying to grow.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm not the best. This is probably my biggest opportunity, to be honest.
Oh heck yeah. Because I always see you hustling on the floor. I'm like, dang, like you get the job done.
I try.
You try, you do. Next question is, what distracts you from getting your work done?
I think for me, the better question is what work I'm trying to do that day. So sometimes, for me, I come in today to give you an example, and I'm trying to do as much administrative stuff, getting as much schedule put in, like all the way through November, any availabilities and stuff like that. Versus some days I know that I need to be more on the floor, where hey, we're about to hit, Halloween, so returns, we need to make sure we're on returns and stuff. So for me, what distracts me is sometimes not being on the same page with certain managers and leaders. So, when I'm trying to be on the sales floor, they keep pulling me and pulling me and pulling me. And that can be frustrating versus, sometimes like not necessarily today, but on another day that I've tried to do a lot of my scheduling, Texas friendly. So I think for me, my biggest challenge is unfortunately my to-do list doesn't always match up with what the business needs for the day.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. So this is an interesting question actually. So are meetings generally productive? Why or why not?
Yes, I think meetings are really productive because they allow you to level set with your team. So you're able to clarify a lot of things. Like I said, an opportunity that we have on our team is sometimes miscommunication. Now I think that it's a give and take situation because I'm very big on, hey, creative and leadership styles. So all our leads are very different in how they run the business. Now the reason why I allow that is because while I might see a way of doing something and it might work fairly well, somebody else, whether that's yourself or another specialist, might see it a different way and be like, hey, actually I tried it this way and it worked really good. Cool, let's try it out. Let's try this out. Let's try that out. So I think meetings are really helpful because in those moments where you're trying out a lot of things, coming back together and following up with one another and be like, hey, this worked, this didn't work. This sometimes worked, this sometimes didn't work. So being able to fine tune, hey, maybe on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, this is what we do. And then on Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays this is what we do. So I think meetings can be helpful, but only if you're willing to listen.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're not willing to listen, meetings can honestly be hurtful to the team.
Yeah, waste a lot of time.
Exactly.
That we could be doing
Something
more
else.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. So, how do you orient new employees?
I would say I first try to get to know them and what their goals are trying to be, because I feel like, especially on a team where we're touching a lot of departments, Instead of me just throwing them, hey, this is all the stuff that we do, I can be like, this is all the stuff that we do, but what do you like to do? What are you
Yeah.
interested in? Are you trying to stay with HEB, or are you trying to go somewhere else? Have you thought about HEB, or is this just another stepping stone? Are you trying to be full-time? All those things. So for me, the way that I try to orient to a new partner is I try to kind of get to know them as a person and what they like to do, and kind of what their work style is. You know, do they like to work alone, or do they work better as a team, you know, with another partner? Little things like that. It can be a work in progress because, you know, there's a lot of our partners on our team, so
Yeah.
there's only one of me, so I can only work so many times with
Yeah.
somebody. But I would say that that's my intention behind it. Whenever I'm training somebody and I'm going through all the, hey, this is what we do, I'm really actually trying to read them, their
Yeah.
body language, how they react to certain things, because I want to set them up for success, and the best way to do that is getting to know them as
Oh,
a
yeah.
person.
Heck yeah. I mean, look at me. Because of you, I'm pretty much basically wanting to move up more with the company.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's what's up. So, we're halfway done. We're
Yeah, no
halfway
worries.
done.
I'm loving this, honestly.
So, now next question. This one's gonna be an interesting one as well. So, it's describe your on-the-job training. Is it effective? Why or why not?
I think it could get better. I think there's better ways to do it for sure. I think what makes our on-the-job training a little bit difficult is we're having to cater to a lot of departments. So whereas Michael only has to worry about himself and his team, we're having to be on the schedule of every other department manager. So after getting a lot of feedback from some of our partners on the team, and also how things went on in the summer, I created a new training program kind of, which allows me to schedule our training versus me having, and you know, send it to the manager and everything like that. So what ended up happening a lot beforehand was I'd be like, okay, Josh, we're gonna do bakery training Tuesday 9:30 to 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Tuesday come, we walk over there and they look at me and they're like, we don't have somebody to train him. And now I'm having to delegate and figure
Yeah.
out what to do for you that day. That's no longer hopefully going to be happening that way. So with what I created, hopefully it's almost like a commitment thing. Like, hey, no, Aaron, you said that you were going to schedule it. You signed off on it. This is the day. You didn't accomplish it. That's on you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to now find time for me to schedule my trainer? Instead of me being like, okay, let me fix it. Let me train it. 3 weeks pass and you still need to get bakery training. I think Flex is still fairly new. So I think the training thing that we have right now doesn't necessarily match exactly always what we do in the department. So I've been getting with Michael Hines. He's actually I don't know. He was here yesterday. I don't know if you guys
Yeah, I
see.
saw him.
Yeah, okay. So he just came back to the stores. Me and him are trying to get together and be like, look, this is realistically what we do versus this is realistically.
I'm so sorry.
This right here? Yeah. This is realistically what we do. This is realistically what we don't do. How can we make that tailored to each store? So that's kind of where we're at right now. But no, our on-the-job training can 100% get better. I think as Flex develops, we'll fine-tune a little bit more of that. Yeah.
Because Flex is not even a year old, right? Or is it a year old?
No, not even a year old. Yeah.
Sheesh. Yeah.
So it's definitely getting being composed,
Yeah.
but we were definitely the guinea pigs. So in guinea pig situations, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, which
Oh yeah.
is my favorite thing, failing forward. So being okay with, okay, this didn't work, but now we know that it didn't
Yeah.
work, so let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. So
Trial and error.
exactly.
So. Yeah.
That's a good question.
So number 14 is how do you make your expectations clear to your subordinates / team members?
I think the way that I personally do that is I try to show them what I do. So I definitely think for me, I try to come and set the pace when I get to work. So, and I'm being honest, especially the last week and a half, that was a big opportunity for me because I was studying for some midterms that were, what day is it, Thursday, Tuesday? So I was exhausted. I think I was sleeping like 3 or 4 hours at a time. And there was even a point where I was working, a 15-hour shift and still trying to do that and manage to be here for the team. So I think for me, in those situations, the best way that I set expectations is I just communicate with everyone. I'm like, hey guys, honestly, I'm really struggling. School's happening, so I kind of need help getting energy. So I try my best to lead by example. So if I am running returns, all right, Josh, let's race. Let's go, bro.
Let's go.
You know, if we're in curbside, same thing. Hey, we want breaks. Okay, we got to finish this as quick as we
For real.
can. Or, you know, with Kendall throwing bananas, racing each other. Hey, you do one side and I do the other side,
Yeah.
instead of working next to each other. So
Yeah.
trying to find ways to get that competitive edge out of another person is the
Mhm.
best way I try to set expectations, because then I see them in their best.
Yeah.
So I really try to stretch a partner to see, like, hey, you didn't think that you could throw this many bananas, but
Yeah.
hey, look, when I put when I put a timer in front of you, you did.
You
So
did.
now we know that that's
Mhm.
something we can do. Let's make sure we do it more often. So
Mhm.
I think I try to test everybody and see how, you know, as a rubber band, how far they can stretch,
Yeah.
and then what's a comfortable stretching pace for them.
Hey, and it works out because I got faster on returns because of that.
Exactly, bro.
Mhm.
And now Kendall's probably like the fastest person that throws bananas.
For
Sometimes.
real. I'm trying to beat her.
Yeah, exactly. See?
What was it 9 cases of bananas
Yeah,
in like 5 minutes?
Yeah, she did 9 cases in, like a little bit under 5 minutes. I think it was like
Shoot.
closer to 3 minutes. It was crazy, yeah. So
Shoot, watch me. I'm gonna be 10 in like 4 minutes.
okay,
Mhm.
this is a recording, so you know
Yep.
it's about to happen now. It's real.
Yep, it's real. All right. So next question:
Mm-hmm.
How is the work done by your team prioritized? Do you ever have conflicting priorities?
I think there are conflicting priorities in certain aspects, because each specialist cares about the business in a different way. So we have specialists that, you know, really focus on curbside. We have specialists that really focus on center store. We have specialists that focus on front end. So I think depending on which days, you know, which partner is working that day, you can kind of see the shift of where that might be. Now for me as the lead, I try my best to vocalize that, while I encourage different leadership styles and creativity in that, there does need to be some things that can't be changed. Like, we need to make sure we are touching returns, we need to make sure that we are receiving trucks, and we need to make sure that we are touching MSR.
Mhm.
3 major things that are really important to our core flex concepts. Now, when it comes to prioritizing, I think my team, we can get better at making sure that we're balancing roles. So not the same partners on returns, not the same partners receiving trucks, not the same partners going
Mhm.
to curbside. Because I want everyone to grow together. I don't want a bunch of random,
Yeah.
you know, trees, small bushes,
Mhm.
situations. So I think that's an area that we can work on, but I would say there can be conflicting, but that's more because of where everyone's heart and head is
Yeah.
in different areas of the business, naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so next question is: How do you monitor the work of your subordinate/team members?
The best way that I do it is recaps. So that allows, so we have closing and opening recaps, where we literally, the specialists have to sit down. It takes about 10-15 minutes sometimes, because it can be really lengthy. I can actually show you one. You know, we talk what we did for front end, what we did for curbside, what we did for bakery, produce, deli, even seafood market, trucks, MSR, and returns. So we hit about 10 topics in that closing recap. It tends to be kind of long.
Yeah.
I also have them include pictures. So one thing that we were missing on was MSR.
Mhm.
You know, being process excellence is really important. So we were at like 98%, which you're like, okay, 98 isn't bad, but it needs to be at 100. So it needs to be at 100. So
Mhm.
right now, what we've been doing for the last 3 weeks is I have them take pictures of how the MSR looks, how it says no items in queue, and add that to the closing recap. I also have them do that with the truck list, and then I also have them do that with returns. So it allows me to be here without having to be here.
Mhm.
As well as it allows us to find patterns and trends, like, hey, you know, when Julie closes, this is how this looks like. When I close, this is how this looks like. How come we're always having problems when I'm closing, this always looks really bad? Or how does this, you know, how can we get better? Or on Mondays, we tend to really struggle, but on Fridays, we're doing really good. So, like, is that a scheduling thing? So it allows me as the lead being able to fine tune some things like schedule effectiveness. Do 5-hour shifts work? Do 6-hour shifts work? Or do we need more 8s? Do we need a 4-hour shift? Do we need a, you know, shift splits and stuff like that? So that's the way that I kind of track my partners and specialists, is those recaps, because the specialists are supposed to include performance things. So like,
Yeah.
you've been on the recaps a good amount of times. Like,
Mhm.
hey, Josh is really improving on this. I put you in the recap yesterday for your curbside. Like, you did really, really good. So it's another way for us to shout each other out. And we also attach all the store leaders onto it. So Brian, Karen, Sarah, and Tommy all read the recaps. and they typically respond every single time about something. So it's a good way for us to all communicate and be on the same page.
Yeah. All right. Next question is, how often do you give feedback to subordinates / team members on their performance?
I try to do it not often as I can. I mean, I do it as needed, I
Yeah,
guess I
as
would
needed.
say. So I try my best to do it in that moment. So because I think if it's in the moment, then they can recognize it. Versus if I wait a couple days, it might be like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say it's a lot because I think we have great partners on our team. Because typically when I tell a partner, hey, you need to work on this, I don't have to tell them again. Because that's where I see opportunities when I'm having to have the same conversations over and over again with them.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I talked to you, hey Josh, we need to get faster on returns. Now you're, if not one of the best on returns. So it shows improvement. So I try my
Yeah.
best to not drill it too much because then I don't want to demoralize you guys. But I also don't want to let it continue. So I think there's the balance of knowing when to coach and then knowing when to take a step back and let them
Yeah.
make the mistake themselves.
Yeah. That's what's up. So next question is, when a subordinate / team member has English as a second language, how do you handle giving instructions?
That's a great question, actually. I really like that question. So, for me, English is not my first language. So for me, that's actually kind of really cool that you're asking that. I try to be considerate. With the culture that they're coming from. Because for me, it's not necessarily just a language barrier, but it can be even a culture barrier.
Yeah.
So, we have some partners on our team that aren't from the United States. So, recognizing and kind of educating myself on, hey, how do you like to be talked? I know I say this word, but does that mean the same thing for you guys? So, just because we speak, Spanish, the dialect can be different. The
Yeah.
words can mean something else. So, I think the best way that I deal with that is being vulnerable with them and being like, hey, I don't know necessarily how to always communicate with you, but just know that what I'm saying is coming from a good place. If I ever say anything that offends you, let me know and I can work on it, and then we can both learn from the situation. So I think the way to handle that is being transparent and vulnerable and not knowing. Being humble with learning, I think, is the best way to go about it.
You just answered one of my questions for my assignments.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here to help.
Hey, that's why we're called Flex.
Exactly.
All right. Next question is, what issues, if any, do you have with different group / departments in working together?
I think for me, wait, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I got you. What issues, if any, do you have with different groups / departments in working together?
I think being flex, there's a lot of that, for sure. I think that was probably one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome, being a flex lead. Not only as a flex partner, I'm sure you've encountered it. I think one of the biggest things is, not necessarily goes back to communication, but sometimes when we're working in their department, but they're not there, we're working really hard, but they don't necessarily see that all the time. And vice versa. We're not always there when they're working. So in our eyes, we're working really hard for them, but they don't see it. And they're working really hard and we don't see it. So I think it can be a lot of perception. So for me, the biggest problem that I deal with different departments is the problem with perception. Because one thing that, I'm very big on is perception is reality. So it might not necessarily be the truth, but that's what they perceive. So in their mind, that is the truth. So I think being able to, goes back to communication, being able to communicate with each other. The recaps help a lot. I've been trying to get the store leaders to be open to us sending it to the department managers as well, so that they can read it and see what's going on with their day and what Flex is doing for them, because I feel like sometimes it can get muddy in what we do for them and the impact that we get back to the department. So my biggest problem with departments is perception. And it can be frustrating, for sure. It's almost like running on a treadmill and trying to get somewhere. It's like going 100 miles an hour and not actually moving anywhere.
Yeah, that's how it is. So, 4 questions left. We're almost done.
No worries.
So, number 20 is, when a subordinate / team member has a negative attitude, how do you handle that?
The first way that I try to handle that is by showing compassion. Because more often than not, it might not even be something that's happening in the store or on the team. It can be something that is funneled from their personal life.
Yeah.
So, which, like I always tell you guys, you put on the name tag. You guys are y'all are people first. So I try to always approach a situation when they have a bad attitude, like, hey, is there something going on with you? Now, if the answer is no, like, no, I'm frustrated about work. Okay, well then let's rumble through this. Let's talk through this. Because typically, what I've noticed is the problem could have been fixed, but they didn't voice it when it first started. So then it started building up and building up and building up and building up, and then it turned into a huge bubble. So I think the best way that I try to approach that is just compassion, being like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, if there's ever something that's bugging you, tell me when it first happens. Don't tell me when you get to the point that you're about to break or you're about to explode. So that's the best way that I would try to handle that.
Yeah. All right, so next question is, when a subordinate / team member is performing below expectations, how do you handle the situation?
Great question. The best way that I try to handle that is to first be clear with the expectations. Because more often than not, it might be something that they didn't realize was an expectation to begin with, which is an error on the leads or specialists, especially if it's not a specialist but a partner. I typically try to make sure that, hey, are you on the same page as me? Because if I go into it thinking that they are, but they aren't, then they are going to be 100% confused and they're going to feel like I'm attacking them, and it can just be a whole other situation. So the first way I definitely try to approach that is making sure that they even were aware of the situation to begin with. And then I try to walk them through my mindset as like, hey, this is why it's really important. So typically once I figured out that we're on the same page, I try to really show them the why behind why we do something. Because typically that why, that power behind it is a lot more important. So I'll give you an example like MSR. Partners were trying to get through MSR really quickly because we had trucks, we had Texas friendlies, we had returns, so there were just no actioning. When I sat down and I stopped as many partners as I saw that were making that mistake, and I explained to them, hey, like the why of why we do MSR and why you need to take as long as you need to make sure we're stock balancing correctly, it's because that's how Flex earns hours. Josh, you want full time? Kat, you want full time? The best way I can do that to you guys is if we're doing MSR 100% effectively, taking as much time as we need to do it correctly. Once I talked to some of those partners and I explained to them that why of why I'm not trying to get on you, I'm not trying to be like, why aren't you doing this correctly? But I'm doing it for the better of everyone on the team and certain things that you guys are trying to get towards. I feel like that's the best way to do it. So definitely clarity, and then trying to show them that why.
That's good. So question 22 is, when you have an idea for improvement, how do you sell it to your manager / supervisor?
That's a great question, because that's pretty much all Flex is.
Yep.
I would say I try to get their buy-in. So I try to get them to see it in themselves, to have them participate in the idea themselves, so that it's not a Lena idea, it's not a Josh idea, but it's a team idea. It's, hey, you're participating, I'm participating, and so we're doing this together. Because what I've learned is if they see themselves in it, then they're more likely to care about it when I'm not here. Because you never want a project to start and to be working while I'm on the clock. Like, I'm on the clock and it works, but the day that I have a day off, nobody does it. That's when you're not going to have a successful project. So you need to make sure that you have a project that other people see themselves in. So that they can take care of it so you can have an off day, or so you can take a holiday and know that it's being taken care of. That's how I would handle that.
Hey, that's what's up. So question 23 is, how do you get to the root cause of problems that you deal with?
I ask a lot of questions. I think for me, being able to really dig deep into problems is being able to ask questions so that you can make sure that you're aware of all the angles that you're looking at. I think when people tend to deal about problems, they ask a couple questions and then they make a conclusion fairly quickly. I really try to ask as many questions as I can before I even make a conclusion, and even when I make a conclusion, I ask questions about my conclusion. I try to even dissect, how did I even get there? Why do I think that? If I think that, do others think that? If they don't think that, why not? So I think the best way to root down problems like that is asking questions, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, final question. So, how do you recognize and reward your subordinates / team members?
I think this is a really big area of opportunity for me. I think I try my best to do daily affirmations and tell them that they're doing a good job. I feel like we have fallen off of doing Partner of the Month,
Mhm.
which we actually have a team meeting here coming up this week, the 25th, I think is what it is, 25th or 26th, with my specialist, to see if we can come up with a way for all of us to be included with the Partner of the Month. Because before, the way that we were doing it, it was kind of hard because it was all on me, which is fine. I totally love it because my specialist wanted to be participating and they wanted to be Partner of the Month if they wanted.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cooler and I think it's more meaningful when the whole team votes for somebody. Because then that shows, hey, this isn't just one person or two people thinking that they're doing a good job. This is Josh, this is Kendall, this is Brandy, this is Lena, this is all of us being like, hey, I see the work that you're doing, and I love that, and here, I'm gonna call you out. Like, I'm gonna shout you out in a good way.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
gonna
good.
shout you out in a good way. But I would definitely say it's ironic because for me, appreciation is really important. And I feel like this is one area that I feel like I can get better at because you guys always do a good job. And it's in those times where you do a good job so much that you kind of oversee it. And I feel that myself, you know, like I feel like I could be doing a great job, but nobody says it. So then I'm like, am I doing a good job or am I not doing a good job? So I think this is one thing that I told my team when we made this meeting that, hey, 3 things that I want to focus on. The first thing I said was how do we appreciate? Because appreciation, especially going into the holiday times, is the one thing that we need. Because it's going to get hard and the only thing that we can count on ourselves is each other as a team. So how can we get closer and how can we become more of a family? Just like how you love one another, love your brothers and sisters, same thing with our team. Just have to get closer, and that's one thing that we got to work
Shoot,
on.
I'm already
But
seeing that now.
I feel like we're getting there, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's definitely, there's always better ways to
There's
get
better
closer for
ways.
sure.
All right, well, that wraps up our interview for today.
For
Would
sure.
there be anything else you'd like to add, or?
No, I mean, I guess I would just want to say this was really exciting. I appreciate you asking me these questions. I think that getting to be asked the questions, especially from you, a partner on my team, I think made me realize there's even when you're doing a good job, there's always a better way, and you can always do better. So I really appreciate you doing this with me, Josh, and hopefully I was able to help you with your school
Oh, heck
work
yeah.
and your school project for this. You know, I'm always here for you, and I love the fact that I've been able to see you grow in not even 6 months on the team to who you are now, and I'm excited to see where you're going, bro. Like, for real, I
heck
really
yeah.
appreciate this, and if there's anything else you need from me, just know that, you know, I got your back, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
All right, that concludes the interview.
Ooh, that was exciting. I'm like